important topic, dementia. And you know that it is very important because as we grow old, we have problems with our memory and other activities of daily living. Next slide, please. Hello? Yeah. So, dementia, I can't operate from my side, the slides. Hello? Andakumar?
Some other person is operating your.
Who's operating? Please.
Now you try to change it.
Huh? So he can hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Now I have given remote control access to you, ma'am. You can change the slides, ma'am. I have given access to you.
How can I do that? How would I do that?
Sorry.
Tap here too. Okay, this one, huh? So how do I change? I don't know this. How would I change it?
Simply you can swipe or click the side.
Nothing is happening.
I will change the slides.
Huh?
Okay. I will change the slides.
Okay. I can do that now. Right? Okay. Okay, I think one of you do it. Go back to that slide of definition of dementia. Yeah, I think that's easier. What is dementia? There's a global decline of intellect, and that is sufficient enough or severe enough to impair the normal activities, social as well as occupational functioning. And this should occur when a person is conscious, not in an unconscious state. Patient should be conscious and should not be delirious. This has become very important because we are living longer, and the longer you live, the more chance of dementia. Usually Alzheimer's occurs after 65 years of age, and by 90 years, almost 1 in 2, that's 50% will be having Alzheimer's disease or some form of dementia. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. See, these are the 6 main domains which can be affected. And what I mean is, these are all higher function involvement, complex attention, where multiple systems of the brain has to be involved. Executive ability, mainly frontal. Learning and memory is mainly temporal lobes. Language is both frontal and temporal. Perceptual, motor, visual will be parieto-occipital. Social cognition is multimodal. So any one of these components can get affected, and these are the 6 domains. At least one should be affected for both minor and major. NCD is neurocognitive disorders. What is neurocognitive disorders? Is primarily neurological disorders where cognition is affected. We are not talking about which occurs in a metabolic encephalopathy. That's a different issue. That is not with this. Okay. This patient is fully conscious and still these abilities can get affected. Next slide, please. So before we go into it, I think a few terms we have to know. What is aphasia? Aphasia is a language disorder where the comprehension or the understanding capacity can get affected. The patient is not able to understand what we are telling, or expression, not able to express what he or she feels like telling. Sometimes they have problems with repetition. They can have problems with naming, where it is known as anomia. They may know an object, they may know how to use it, but may not be able to tell what it is. I've shown the pen down. See, in this picture, when you ask a patient to handle the pen, he may take the pen and write, but he will not be able to tell you it's a pen. He will say, this thing is for writing. I can do like this, I can do like that. So that is known as anomia. Apraxia is inability to do a motor act or even an ideation when your motor functions is intact. That is, pyramidal, sensory as well as the cerebellar function should be intact, and still you are not able to do a motor act. Just like opening a door. Everything is intact. When you will stand in front of the door, you will not know that you have to open the latch and then open the door. So that is known as apraxia. And why did I show Gandhi's face here? Sometimes people have difficulty in recognizing faces. That is known as agnosia. Okay? Visual agnosia, they may not be able to tell who this person is. Though they know, they may say that he's the one who got us independence. They may or may not even recognize that. So sometimes multiple modes are affected, and so it becomes very difficult to tease out everything. But these few terms, aphasia, apraxia, agnosia, anomia, you just definitely have to know because these are mostly affected in Alzheimer's. Next slide, please. So what is this dementia of Alzheimer's? It's one umbrella term where you find different things are affected, predominantly memory. Second thing is the thinking can be slowed down. The judgment can be affected. The reasoning skills can be affected. Perception, not know. Attention and language is affected. So memory affected means keep the watch somewhere and keep looking for it all over the place, not find it. Thinking, he want to go out, but he will not know how to go out. And if he goes out, he may not know how to come back. Sometimes they get lost. Judgment, they don't know that they should not walk in the middle of the road. They may be hitched. Perception, if they see somebody smile, they may know that it is a smile, or sometimes they think that the person is smiling, is snarling at them or being sarcastic to them. They may have different perception from what we think we are. Reasoning also can get affected. Suppose you ask a person, what you do if the child is crossing the road and they are seeing a bus come? If reasoning is good, they will say, I'll try to pick up the child or I'll try to stop the bus. This person may say, I'll try to push the child to the other side, which may or may not be correct because he is subjecting himself also to accident. Their reasoning and judgment are affected. Attention. You say two sentences, his attention wanders off and then he may not listen to the rest of it or he may not understand. This often happens in the classes when we are, all of us undergo this attention deficit. When we are sitting in a class, I don't know how many of you are attending now. Language is, as I said, the expression of speech, which can be verbal, it can be written, it can be reading. Anything can get affected in dementia. Next slide, please. So this is the memory loss. Is all memory loss dementia? No. Memory loss that disturbs the daily life. So what happens is we forget names or appointments occasionally, but we will remember them later. Here, they forget they have eaten in the morning. They may again eat. Or sometimes what happens is they forget important dates and events and leads to a lot of problems in the house. They may have to use additional memory aids. Now with the cell phone, we find that our memories, even to remember the phone numbers, are very difficult. Earlier we had 6-digit number, then 7-digit, the regular landline numbers. Now we have the 8-digit number. With the cell phone, it's 10-digit number. Many people don't even remember their own numbers. So go to the next slide, please. See, this is what you see. See, last week dad had left his wallet in the fridge. Wallet is a purse. Today it's his watch. So you can see the watch in the first shelf of the fridge. Why would he leave it there? Because he does not know it should not be left there. And second thing is, he will not be looking at it in the fridge, he will be looking at it elsewhere. So this leads to problems in day-to-day functioning. And so, next slide, please. These problems can also produce challenges in planning or solving skills. Many times we make an occasional, not many times, occasionally we make a mistake in balancing a checkbook. But every time you're going to make a mistake, and 18 plus 10 is not 28 but 58, then these numbers will be problematic when you are balancing big numbers. Sometimes if you have to write 28,000, 28000, they may wonder how many zeros to add after the 28. They will not know how to do it. And then they will take the checkbook, they'll keep looking at the checkbook, they will not know what to write, they may take time to write it, time to write the name of the person. I don't know, I don't think you are all familiar with the checkbooks because you're all doing net transfers. But the typical old person is to balance a checkbook is very difficult for them. Next slide, please. And to do a familiar work at home, that also becomes difficult. Daily tasks like brushing or combing or having a bath or driving to a familiar place. That they have problems, and then the house budget, they're not able to do it properly. See, occasionally anyone will need help in these things, like to set up a microwave or record a television show, which are all new. But day-to-day work which they have been doing, they find it problem, then you have to be very careful and observe them, find out whether they're going in for dementia. Next slide, please. See, as you get older, what happens is you tend to start sleeping earlier and getting up earlier. So they get a little bit disoriented to time. But getting disoriented to date, everything is not normal. You should know that today is Sunday, is 18th, and this is around about 3 o'clock, and we are in Chennai. Suppose that is not there. Suppose I think that I am in Seattle, and today's date is 4th of September 2014. Then definitely something is wrong with me. So we should not be like this. We may forget occasionally, but not always. Next slide, please. They also can have some, when they see some pictures, they may have some trouble recognizing it. That can be because of some media changes in the eye. If it's not because of media changes, the eye vision is all right. if they have difficulty in reading or understanding what they have read, or judging distances when they are crossing the road or getting down the steps, then definitely that you should be very careful. They do not fall and injure themselves. Next slide, please. They can also have problems with speaking or writing. So they may suddenly become very quiet because when they're not able to follow a conversation, they don't know how to reply back. So, and sometimes they forget what they come to say. So halfway through, they may just stop and stare at you, or they can keep repeating themselves. This is sometimes old age can have some word finding difficulty, but not always. Next slide, please. They can also misplace things, like how I said, the man had put his watch in the fridge. So they can put things in unusual places. And if a normal person should be able to retrace the steps, go and find them. When did I last wear my watch? When did I take it out? Did I take it out as soon as I came home? And when did I place my watch? And then you'll see the regular places. But in dementia, they will not be able to retrace these steps, and they may find it difficult to find out where they have kept their things. Next slide, please. As I said, they can have poor judgment. They can make bad decisions once in a while, not many times. That is why the elderly are good targets for fraudsters and fraudulent people, fraudulent transactions. That also happens over net nowadays. One of my patients recently was asked, was called on phone and telling, I'm speaking from such and such a bank. You please put your PIN number because we want to deposit some money in your account. This was 84-year-old lady. She did not know what to do. She was about to put the PIN, and thankfully the daughter has just entered. So she told the daughter, they're asking like this. So when the daughter asked this person, who are you? Which bank are you from? What is your designation? She cut the phone. So obviously this is a fraudulent transaction, and they target the older people because they know that we are not very familiar with the internet. It becomes a little less difficult when you are doing the regular hard work transaction. Next slide, please. Because of all these, they may withdraw from their usual social activities of meeting their friends and family. And that can worsen the dementia. Having a good hobby, a good active friends group is good. Now at least WhatsApp is making it helpful to a lot of old people because they are quite active with their school friends and college friends and their neighbors. So at least now each one checks on the other to see whether everything is all right. So the social activities are good. Feeling very can happen once in a while. All of us get back with the family or friends, but it should not be too often. Next slide, please. So what should I say? We have our lows and highs. Moods do not remain the same. I think that's our personality. But becoming confused, suspicious of the people at home. They say, so and so, my son has taken away my money and he's hid it somewhere. I don't have any money. I've given 2 lakhs to my neighbor. He's not given it back. All these will be something which is not usually done. So when somebody talks like this, you have to see whether their mood is all right. They may become aggressive. They may start using bad words and abusing language. So they may start hitting their attendant carers because they don't like to be controlled. These are all signs. If anybody in your house, old person is behaving in any of these ways, you have to be guarded. You have to find out. You have to analyze and see whether dementia is setting it, because not all the signs are present in the same individual. It depends on what is happening, whether it's a mild one or a moderate or a severe one. Next slide, please. I'm going to start with this story of my father-in-law has become very inefficient. Okay, the son-in-law brings the father-in-law to the clinic and says, my father-in-law has been a very active man. He has been one of the top persons in a company. He's been the CEO. But nowadays, it takes long time to do anything, plan his work. They ask him to get into the car. 3-4 times he goes inside the house and outside, comes out, comes in, buttons and unbuttons his shirt, then wonders whether he's wearing the correct shirt or not, and then only gets into the car. So this is not himself. I want to know whether he is going to go into dementia. So next slide, please. This may not be dementia. You may have, however, have to wait because this is known as mild cognitive impairment, MCI. There is a cognitive decline from the previous level of performance. It can be out of the 6 domains. It can be in 1 or more domains. As I said, it can be judgment, reasoning, memory, abstract thinking, and things. But this is not sufficient to interfere with the normal activities. They may take some time, but they will do their tasks. It's not like how fast they are when they were at 20. But greater effort will be taken, more planning will be taken. You have to exclude delirium. Sometimes you have a quiet delirium, which can be like this, but you have to exclude the delirium. Not all delirium are active delirium. Sometimes you have passive quiet delirium. And this should not be attributable to some other mental disorders like anxiety or depression. Sometimes major depressive illness can make them act differently. So this first one is a man who takes longer to do his work, is able to do it, but has to have a lot of planning. That is MCI, mild cognitive impairment. Sometimes after a few years, they can go into Alzheimer's dementia. Next slide, please. Next slide. Hello? Okay. I'm going to tell you, this is a true story of a man who got lost at Paris airport. It's my friend's father, classmate's father. After seeing her at Boston, he was on his way to see the second daughter at Florence, Italy. They had to change their flight at Paris. Her mom and dad were traveling there. What happened suddenly that he doesn't like to mix with people, so he was sitting in one corner. Wife was elsewhere, she had gone to bring coffee or something. She came back, she found that he was not there. Imagine two old people, Paris airport, who don't know the French language, and your spouse is lost. She panicked, she called her daughters, both the daughters. One was expecting her in Italy, one was seeing her off in Boston. She called both of them and told like this. Then they told, you go to that security in the airport, tell them this has happened. One of us will come back, come to you. Then the daughter in Italy came to Paris because it was nearer and faster for her. And then it took them 10 days to find him. He was lodged in an old age home because he could not tell anything of his whereabouts. He could not tell his name. He did not know where he is from. And he did not know his spouse is in the airport. After searching after a lost person report and all that, they finally found him. And then they brought him to India. Here we admitted him in a hospital. And at 3 o'clock in the night, the staff nurse calls me and tells he's trying to climb the compound wall of the hospital because the gate is locked. And he wants to go home at that time. These are very, very inappropriate behaviors. Many times people get lost. Another person, a patient of mine, was found sitting in some tea shop in Thamram. They actually live at Kadalur. And the son has been searching for him and he had given an advertisement. Somebody saw him in this tea shop and called him. And that is when they recognize the father is not normal. We pass off a lot of things as because of old age. Not everything gets the attention it needs. So you have to be very careful. A man is not able to tell his name. He does not know where he is. He does not know for what he has come. Does not know his spouse. Then definitely you cannot leave that person alone. You have to have somebody attended with him always. Next slide, please. So this is one of the classical presentations of Alzheimer's. Next slide, please. Okay, this is one of the common dementias. 60 to 80% of the people are affected when they grow older. And you find this affects much more the older people above 60 than the younger ones. And it keeps progressing. The medications which are available are only of help in limiting progression, not in stopping progression. They start out with a short-term memory loss, but they can go on to have a global cognitive dysfunction. They can also develop double incontinence. That is urinary as well as fecal incontinence, that they have no control. They don't know where they are passing. Sometimes they put their hand in that feces also and try to eat it. These are parts of the dementing illness. There's no purpose shouting at that man in the house because he does not know what he is doing. He is not correct. Late stages, there has to be a carer who will look after them completely because they also do not know how to swallow. You may have to assist them in all the activities like you're assisting a small child. So it's very important the carer also understands his disease because many times they think this person is behaving oddly only to them. Next slide, please. So what is the criteria by which we say it's an Alzheimer's disease? As I said earlier, they should meet the major or the minor cognitive disorder criteria, the 6 ones I've already said, and there should be a decline in baseline at least of 1, which can be either attention, executive function, learning, memory, language, perception, motor, or social. And this should be slow and gradual. Next slide, please. So, do all people with memory disturbance are having Alzheimer's, or is it just age related? So, you should know how to differentiate between the two. Once in a while, any old person will make a bad decision, but repeatedly making a poor judgment and bad decision is abnormal. Missing a monthly payment once in a way, you have forgotten to pay electricity bill is okay, but inability to manage a budget and spending inappropriately, buying all clothes which you don't want, it's not correct. forgetting which day it is and remembering it later. See, now all of us are at home with this COVID. Many times we do not know what is the day, what is the date. We have to see the calendar. Once we see, then we remember that today is 18th of October and today is a Sunday. But then in dementia, they lose track of the dates, the season, and the time. We do have issues in using words, especially when you are sitting in an exam and the examiner is asking you a question. You are unable to answer. That does not mean you have dementia. It is because of fear you are not able to tell. Whereas in dementia, they may have problems in having a conversation. And all of us keep our watch, our cell phone, and our spectacles in different places. These are common things which we search for. Suppose a person, one lady of mine, she used to wrap her chappals in a paper and put it in the puja room, which is definitely a very inappropriate behavior. And so definitely that is not to be taken as normal. And with these signs, you have to make a diagnosis of dementia and take appropriate treatment. Next slide, please. What happens is there is a atrophy of the brain. You can see in these slides, the first one on the left is the healthy control. That is the normal ventricular system for a person who is about 70 years old. The one on the right shows enlarged ventricles. I don't know whether you can see this, enlarged ventricles. Okay. You can see this ventricles being enlarged. Okay. These ventricles are enlarged. So that means it is the cerebral atrophy is taking place. That is why the ventricles are enlarged. Otherwise, they will remain the same type. And you can see in this picture, the cortex is quite good. Here, cortex has become thinner. Next slide, please. I'll just show it to you. Especially the temporal lobes, you can see the difference. Yeah. See the right one on the left is the normal one where you get the normal hippocampus, the arrow, white arrow pointing it. That's part of the temporal lobe. One on the left shows you an atrophic hippocampus where it has become shrunken and you can see some spaces there. So that is part of an hippocampal atrophy. Next slide, please. Okay. This shows how one is the normal side and the other one is the abnormal kept together. Because of the shrinkage, there is dilatation of the ventricles and you can see that hippocampus is also shrunk and so you get the temporal horns of the ventricles can get enlarged. Okay, this happens in Alzheimer's disease. And going to the next slide. So why and how? What happens is in Alzheimer's disease, if you think that it's our brain is a factory and all the cells have to work in a coordinated fashion. Like suppose you have to have a car. You have to have the different components and then part of the factory where the different components are manufactured and then go to the place where they have to be assembled and they should it should go in one order so that it is assembled in the appropriate order. You can't have the wheels first and then get the rest of it in machine engine later. That is exactly what happens in an Alzheimer's. The factory is not running well. There is backup and breakdowns in the factory, but usually the backups will overtake the breakdowns. Here the breakdowns are much more than the backups. So these cells lose their ability to do their jobs well and then they die. That causes some changes in the brain. Next slide please, which are known as plaques and tangles. These plaques are deposits of proteins, amyloid plaques known as, called beta amyloid that builds up in the spaces between the nerve cells, in between the cells. Okay. So these are plaques are abnormal deposits of protein material. You can see from the next slide, I'll show you how it will look. And they build up in between the cells, and these are known as amyloid plaques. Now you have amyloid plaque scanning is also available. Tangles, neurofibrillary tangles. These are twisted fibers of another protein called tau, and these are inside the cells. Plaques are outside the cells. These tangles are neurofibrillary tangles, NFT are inside the cells. Next slide, please. You can see on the left side is a normal brain, and on the right side is the Alzheimer's. The dark blobs where the dark arrows are pointing are the plaques. You can see them as globular structures, quite large compared to the normal brain where you don't see such things. Next slide, please. So what happens is, here the cholinergic neuron loss is there, which produces the early symptoms, 30% of the symptoms. Subsequently, the senile plaques and neurofibrillary tangles, as well as neurotransmitter abnormalities, will produce the rest of the symptoms. Okay, so we'll see the treatment of it later. So here you have a person who got lost in Paris airport, not able to tell who he is or where did he come from or his spouse. Then had to be taken home with the help of police and then finally got treated and he did not improve much and he is passed away also. So this is known as Alzheimer's. This was quite a severe Alzheimer's. So you can see the difference between the first man who had difficulty in doing his activities, but could do it taking some time and planning. Second one is just not able to do anything at all. So we'll go to the next one. This is about a man. Next slide, please. So MCI can become Alzheimer's later on. So that is why I put it as 1B and 1B. Second, this is a man who can sing but does not talk making sense. He can sing but talks nonsense. He will sing all the songs. If you ask him to talk anything, he will talk nonsense. Next slide, please. What happened is, next slide, he was calling up his mother on the phone and he was supposed to come to her house, and she was feeling very funny because she could not understand what he was trying to tell his mother. So she rang up the police and said, my son is on the way here from such and such a place. He seems to have got lost and he doesn't seem to be properly talking. She gave the number of the car, so they traced, and when the police went and spoke to him, this is what he says. I called my mother on the television. So it is, instead of the phone, he is using television. This is paraphasias, where he substituted one word for the other and did not understand the door. What did he mean to say? Did not take the call or did not understand the call. Okay, so he says doors. It was not for breakfast, but she came from far. No idea what it is. It doesn't make sense. No, all the words by themselves have a meaning. The whole sentence does not make sense. My rover is tomorrow morning. This rover is not a word, so this is known as a neologisms. It's tomorrow morning, I think. So the speech, he's speaking fluently, but you cannot understand what he's trying to tell. What we can understand is he was coming and on his way he got lost. He called his mother to find out how to come. And since she was not able to understand, she was not able to give him a proper guidance, or neither was he able to understand what she said. So that is what has taken place. Is this dementia? So let us see what is the difference between aphasia and dementia. This is Wernicke's aphasia. Next slide, please. This is a disturbance of language. And this is not because of articulatory impairments. If there is an articulative problem, it will be a dysarthria. It can be lingual, it can be guttural, it can be spastic dysarthria, it can be cerebellar dysarthria. But here, the language is affected. That is, the substance of the speech is affected and he is not able to talk properly. He is not able to comprehend. So when the comprehension is gone, but the fluency is retained with lot of new words and paraphasias. Paraphasias are word substitutions or alphabet substitutions. Then you know that this is aphasia and this is not a dementia. This can occur in isolation. Many times after head injury it can occur. Sometimes even in dementing illness, Alzheimer's also can have this. Next slide, please. So what have I done? Wernicke's, I have not put aphasia, I put something else. So I substituted a word. I missed out a word, letter. Yes. So these things can happen. Comprehension can be impaired. Both listening. If you talk to them, they may not be able to understand. They may not be able to understand even if you write and show. Please put up your hand. You write it, they will be able to read it, but they may not be able to do it. When you see them, they will express themselves very fluently. There will be a lot of articulations. The prosody, that is the ups and downs of the speech, would be good. They will speak in a rapid rate. Okay, don't blame me. And they can have a lot of speech, meaningless speech, that is known as logoria. This will be something like a verbal diarrhea. These paraphasias are word substitutions or alphabet substitutions can be there. Neologisms or nonsensical new words. And the speech is empty like that man's speech. You could not make out what it was. It can be paragrammatic. And they lack awareness that they are talking nonsense. So this is Wernicke's aphasia. This is not dementia. Please go back, go to the next slide, please, where you can see this is part of a stroke, and you can go to the MRI. Previous slide, yeah. You can see that there's a temporoparietal. Can you see this? There's a temporoparietal region which is involved, and the adjacent white matter is also involved. The dark ones is the infarct, large infarct, which you can see there. Okay. So this is aphasia. First we have seen MCI, then we have seen Alzheimer's, and this is Wernicke's aphasia, which sometimes can be mistaken as a dementia, because attenders will bring this patient and tell that he is not able to understand what we are telling and he is doing something which we are not able to understand. So next slide, please. So this is something else which is very important for you to know, because this is very, very fearful for the person. This man, he forgot what he was doing while he was working at the post office. And then he comes home. Next slide, please. And you will see what is happening. So this is on a Saturday morning when he comes home from the post office and he finds that suddenly he notices something wrong. There's nobody around him. And then he does not know what time it is. Does not know which year it is. And he could not find out either. And afterwards he thought he had searched the house to find out, and somehow he came to know about the date and time or something from the TV or the computer. But he was definitely not aware of for a few hours of what was happening to him. And then he was able to do everything, but he was not able to find out what it is. He also dialed a phone and he spoke to somebody, but he had no recollection of it later. So what is this? This can last for a short while. This is known as transient global amnesia. A patient of mine was standing at the Egmore station to board a train. For about 10 minutes, he did not know what he had to do. Why he was standing there, who he is, or what he wanted to do, whether he had the ticket, nothing he knew. And then afterwards, he became all right. He panicked and he called me. Then I said, you please come, I'll have a look at you. Until by the time he reached me, everything was all right. So he had recollected the previous incidents, not that incident which had taken place in the station. He said, I did not know what had happened at all. So how do you make a diagnosis of this transient global amnesia? Transient, as the word says, it's temporary. Global is all aspects are affected. Amnesia is loss of memory. So this is antegrade amnesia, not retrograde. This is antegrade. It occurs, and after that you're not able to remember. If there is a witness, then it would be nice to have a witness upon. And here they should be fully aware. I mean, they should be fully conscious, not under sedation or something. And they have only amnesia. They do not have anything else. They're able to do coordinated acts. And it usually lasts only for a few hours. And usually recovers within 24 hours. So this is a very frightening experience. Next slide, please. And they're very worried that they may get a stroke or they become demented. And this usually does not recur, thankfully. And MRI is usually normal. Most of the time, you don't have to give them any specific treatment for it. Reassure them. But occasionally, they can have a recurrence of it also. Next slide, please. So we have seen mild cognitive impairment of a man who doesn't do his work fast or takes a longer time. Second one is a dementia who got lost. Third one is a Wernicke's aphasia, where that finds it very difficult to communicate anything. And this is a transient global amnesia. So you've seen the four. And you know the first two are different from the next two. And now we are going to see a lady who's baffled by a key and has poor judgment. So what did she do? She and her daughter had gone for purchase. And there was a lot of baggage. They had got lots of things. So when they got home, the daughter was carrying the bags, gave the key to the mother to open the house so that the daughter, the bags in both their hands, can go in and place them. The mother was looking at the key, looking at the door. She was asking the daughter, what is this? What have you given? Why have you given this to me? Daughter was just flabbergasted. She was thinking, what is this man giving you the key to open the door? Why can't you open the door? And then she started telling the daughter, look, what is this? You've come to steal my things? I don't even know who you are. You're talking like this to me. So she did not have any judgment of who the daughter is also, and she did not know how to use the key. And they have a lot of confusion in executing acts. So that is what is known as, next slide please, the frontotemporal dementias. These are one type of dementias where here the frontal and the temporal lobes are affected much more. In Alzheimer's, it's a global one. Here it is frontotemporal, earlier also known as a Pick's disease. Here the personality change is obvious because of the frontal lobe. There can be apathy, that is, they're very slow in doing it. Disinhibition can be there. Sometimes they can take away the clothes in public also. Poor judgment, as I said, not able to judge who is who. They don't even have an insight that they're doing something wrong. Old people, you will see that they will take away the diapers and stand naked. They don't know that they should not do it. They have no insight. And then they don't have any emotional control. So if somebody tells them, why are you doing this? They may lift their hands to hit that person also. And then they can't recognize the person. They'll say, you're all using wrong words. You're shouting at me. Then for them, it is very difficult to convey what they want to. So it produces a lot of anger as well as aggression. And this can be an early part of Alzheimer's also. Sometimes this can progress to Alzheimer's also. Next slide, please. So you can see the purple one in the front, the frontal and the temporal lobes. You can see them in the slide. The frontal and the temporal lobes are affected much more than the other parts. Next slide, please. The right one is the normal brain and the left one is the frontotemporal dementia. As you can see, the first one is a sagittal image, that is, you are cut like this. So half. So you will be seeing the frontal lobe in the front, which is affected in the frontotemporal dementia. As you can see in the front of both, you can see that lot of spaces are seen in the left image than the right image. When you come to the second one, it's an action. If you take away like this, again the front part where the arrows are pointing shows you that a lot of spaces are there, and the side triangular arrow shows you part of the temporal lobe is also involved. And the last image is a coronal. When you cut like this, you can see the temporal lobes at the lower part. I don't know whether you are able to magnify it and see. The temporal lobes are at the lower part, which are affected compared to the normal one. So this is known as a frontotemporal dementia. Next slide, please. This was earlier also called as fixed dementia. You can see the frontal parts of the brain is atrophied. The ventricles are enlarged, especially the frontal horns of the lateral ventricles are very, very enlarged. This is an MRI picture. Next slide, please. So this is mainly because of neuronal loss. In addition, there was also vacuolation and gliosis of the cells, and abnormal protein inclusions are there. Fixed bodies, neurofibrillary tangles are also there in this. So when you go into the pathology, next slide, please. You can see macroscopically the anterior part of the brain, that's the frontal and the temporal lobes are affected. Next slide, next click, please. And you can see that you have one more click, balloon cells there. This is the balloon neuron. You can see the large one with a big nucleus in it is a ballooned neuron, which is the abnormal pathology in the brain. So next slide, please. So we have seen mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, frontotemporal dementias, then transient global amnesia, Wernicke's aphasia, and this is the fifth one. It's a lady with a stroke, and she's sending a secret message. The family thought she was trying to communicate with somebody else, one of her childhood friends, and it was a little upsetting for them to know earlier that she was doing this. But after explaining, they understood what she was trying to do. Next slide, please. No, one more in between is there? Next one? No, sorry. No, next. Okay, no, go back to the vascular dementia. Next one. Okay. So what she was doing is, she just writing want, some pause, go, give water. So they did not know whether she wanted to give water or she wanted to go and give water or whether she wanted water. The next thing she said was, daughter saw yesterday. So they don't know. And then third thing she said was hospital, husband dead. So the friend who was listening to her did not understand what was happening. So he thought she was trying to tell him something without anybody in the house knowing it. But actually, she has had a hemiparesis 2 years earlier, right hemiparesis, which had improved. And again, previous week, she had developed some increasing, she had once again developed a mild hemiparesis, which has improved. And this was the expressive aphasia. She was finding it difficult to express herself. The risk factors were hypertension and diabetes. Next slide, please. So what happens is, when you have these risk factors, the cognitive deficits can occur in strokes. Sometimes strategic strokes like thalamic strokes can produce a dementing feature. Suppose there are many strokes, then the cognitive decline can occur, and it can be an abrupt onset of symptoms. But every time the stroke is, it's an abrupt onset, because it's a sudden neurovascular deficit. But the symptoms may progress subsequently in a stepwise manner. And there will be abnormalities on neurological examination, which will make us diagnose strokes. And you can see images of the MRI, which will show that the patient has had strokes. Next slide, please. So what are the risk factors for this person? Diabetes, high blood pressure, high lipids, coronary artery disease, peripheral arterial disease, insomnia and the old age. All these can be risk factors for vascular dementia, and treatment of vascular dementia is something very different from that of the Alzheimer's. Next slide, please. You have to treat the cause. As you can see from this MRI, the three pictures, one on the left shows multiple white, left and the middle shows multiple axial scans this way. You're looking from top. They shows white, multiple white structures all around, which are the regions which are affected by the decrease in blood supply. The same image in a coronal plane like this, you're looking from front, shows the same areas in a different view. All these are places where the blood supply is affected, so that these patients may have to be treated. So the risk factors of dementia, like hypertension, diabetes, they may be given anti-cholesterol lowering drugs as well as antiplatelets. They are cardiac risk factors. They may even need anticoagulants depending on what is the type of risk factor they have. So this is a vascular dementia with a history of stroke, usually there's abnormality on neurological examination, unlike in an Alzheimer's, where that usually don't find any long track signs. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. I'm skipping this. Next slide. So my mother does not like to talk to us. I'm very worried about what does a mother do? She does not talk to them. And whenever they ask some questions, be monosyllable answers. Did you go out today? No. Why did you not go out? No. Why, Ma? Why can't you talk to me? It's okay. I'm talking that way. Next slide, please. And they thought that, next slide, please. They thought that she was feeling depressed. All this lockdown is there affecting her. She's staying at home. But what happened is slowly she became, over the next 6 months, she slowly developed more non-fluent speech. Occasionally she will say something, but she had problems with the naming, anomia, and also she had to put a lot of effort to speak. This is known as primary progressive aphasia. Here you have an aphasia where it is non-fluent, that is reduced in fluency, reduced in the number of words per minute. In addition, there is a naming difficulty and also hesitation in speaking, and speech is not occurring spontaneously but has to put in a lot of effort. Repetition, reading, writing, everything can be also affected. Comprehension, though, is okay in the beginning, also subsequently gets affected and usually comes on after 60 years. This is also one type of a frontotemporal dementia. Nowadays, we are speaking about this. So I thought you should know on primary progressive aphasia. Next slide, please. So this is grandma gets stuck, has trembling and forgetfulness. Okay, so the granddaughter brings her. Next slide, please. Next slide. Can you just play on the click on it? I would like the video to come. I don't know whether it will come. Is the video coming? Can you click on that? Are you getting the video?
No, ma'am.
Video is not coming. Okay, this is about a lady who has tremors of the hands. Would you be able to see my screen? You can see it. If I put on my computer, will you be able to see it? Where is my it's mine and not getting it. One second, I'll try to show you the video because it's important. It shows a lot of features of Parkinson's disease. I think it's stuck somewhere. Sorry. Okay. Can you see this? Are you able to see the screen?
Not this one.
Huh? Are you able to see it?
No, ma'am.
You're not able to see the screen?
Hmm.
Lady walking?
Ma'am, no, ma'am. Can you send me the video in WhatsApp? I can share it.
Pardon? Huh?
Can you send me the video in WhatsApp, ma'am?
I'll send it to WhatsApp later. Now I can't do it because it's not there in my WhatsApp. Okay, we'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So this is a lady who has got slowness, tremor, as well as a stooped posture, has problems in walking. She's got a short shuffling gait, and then she freezes. She gets frozen and stuck to the ground, freezing of gait. In addition to that, of late, she has also developed memory problems. This is a very classical patient with Parkinson's disease and dementia. And almost 1/3 of the Parkinson's can go on to develop dementia at a later stage. Whenever they have other risk factors like age or above 70 years or a depression, sometimes they have some psychosis or levodopa or confusion. All these can lead on to dementia. Because of this, they may also have hallucinations and delusions. A patient of mine who was treated with the drugs called the police in the middle of the night, telling that a robber has come inside their house. And the patient's wife did not even know he had called somebody unless the police came and knocked on the door. Then she told that he is having these issues, and so they went away. Next day, he called the neighbor because she would not allow him to call the police. She was a little more watchful. So these things do happen, and this is part of the dementing illness. Next slide, please. You can see the scan pictures of the dementia. Next. Yeah. So it shows the basal ganglia, the one on the left with the black one, like a mustache. This is the one which is the putamen, which is affected. And the one on the right, the middle one, no, in the brainstem, because you're seeing these four things. Are you able to see if I enlarge it? This four where I'm keeping my fingers. And that is known as a hot cross bun sign. It's like a hot cross bun, when they make the bun like hot cross bun. So that is very classical for a multi-system atrophy. These things happen in usually Parkinson-less syndromes. Next slide, please. So we have seen 8. I'm going to the 9th one. It's very interesting. It's a broker who, while he was talking to the client, wanted to go to the toilet. And in the client's office, he asked him where the toilet was. But before he reached the toilet, he had passed urine on the way, just before the toilet. It was very, very embarrassing for him. And then he didn't meet the client. He came home and he told his wife that such a thing has happened. And this was not the first time this has happened. Many times he also has difficulty in walking. Sometimes he does not know how to walk. Sometimes he walks as if he is drunken. And of late, his wife noticed that he has become more forgetful, slow, and his attention is not as good as earlier. And twice or thrice, he has also wet himself just before reaching the toilet. So what is this? Is this dementia? Next slide, please. This is a classical triad of normal pressure hydrocephalus, where you have gait disturbance, memory loss, and urinary incontinence. This is one of the important features you should recognize in a dementing patient, because with treatment, many of them do well. That will depend. There's a criteria whom to treat with what. So if you follow that, they do well. So the early features will be a gait problem. And this is the one which actually helps them when you do the shunting, ventriculoperitoneal shunt. They can have gait apraxia, that is, they don't know how to walk, or they can have frontal ataxia, they walk as if they're drunk. Psychomotor slowing, the mentation is slow. They don't think as good as earlier. They become very slow, and then attention span is reduced. Urinary incontinence is also there. So next slide, please. So this will show classical one on the left is a normal, and the same picture, the right one is the NPH as it is labeled there. This is from the Maryland Clinic proceedings. You can see the white tip of the ventricles. That shows the ventricle is dilated. And the next picture shows the frontal horns are dilated. So they have ballooned out. And this angle, which is marked there, is known as the corpus callosal angle. That can become widened. And the corpus callosal angle becomes decreased because the ventricles are widened. And the round one is the Sylvian fissure. It separates the frontal from the temporal lobes, and that is also enlarged because there is atrophy and this increase in pressure within the ventricle, increase in fluid within the ventricles, not the pressure. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a lady who had fever with restlessness, and she was talking nonsense in the ICU. And what happened is, when the nurses go to her, she will talk as if she is in the house. She will say, "You make dosa and give it to me." And she'll ask the nurse, "Why are you wearing this dress? Why are you not in your regular dress? Why are you wearing this cap?" And she'll try to pull out all the IV lines and the nasogastric tubes which were inserted into her. She was creating ruckus in the ICU. And when her relative was allowed to see her, she is telling that these people are all beating me. Now, which leads to a lot of issues in the ICU. It's very easy for us to laugh when we are hearing it as a story. But then the attendants might think this is actually happening because this lady is not cooperating. But no, it was not that. She was very delirious with fever because she had a urinary tract infection. Next slide, please. So how do you differentiate? Next one. So how will you differentiate delirium from dementia? Delirium usually has this acute onset, and the course can be fluctuating, and they are not at all aware of what is happening. In contrast to dementia, where it's usually slow onset, insidious onset, slowly progressive, and they may be clear for quite a number of years. Attention is disturbed in delirium much earlier than in dementia. And in delirium, they usually have a lot of autonomic overactivity. They may also have poor working memory and immediate recall. Dementia also has poor short-term memory, but the old memories may be much more retained. And delusions are much more present in delirium rather than in dementia, where it can become very fixed also. And in delirium, sleep is fragmented. They may sleep, get up 2 hours sleep, get up, whereas in dementia, the sleep-wake cycle can get reversed. They may be much more up and about in the night, getting having their bath at 3 o'clock in the morning and thinking that is the day. So that is the difference between delirium and dementia, because the treatment of the two are very, very different. So next one, please. I think I'm coming to the last one. The man who gets up at 3 a.m. This is about maybe it's about a 45, 50-year-old man, gets up at 3 a.m. He's very much worried and he is disinterested in his work. And he says, I'm frequently forgetting what I want to do. So, and he says, I'm finding it very difficult to sleep. Whenever I'm going to sleep, a lot of these thoughts come in, which what to do tomorrow, how am I going to manage my day? He says that I'm eating too much. I'm eating in the middle of the night and I'm eating too much and I'm gaining weight, lacking sleep. Some days I sleep together and I also miss my work. And then he does not know what is happening. He came mainly because of he's forgetting his work frequently. He does not know what to do. Sometimes he's very confused with what he has to do at all. So he is worried his job is at jeopardy. So he comes. So let us see what this is. Next slide, please. This is a man with depression. So he has this poor concentration. He also had some suicidal thoughts. There's usually lack of joy or pleasure in the normal activities which they enjoy. It may be anything, playing sports, seeing TV. Now they don't want to do it. There's lack of motivation. They just want to sit in one place with lots of aches and pains. They don't want to talk to their family or friends. They may gain weight or lose weight, may sleep more or sleep less. And then they have irritability also. All these things help us to know that this is depression and not a dementia. But you may have to do a formal neuropsychological assessment to differentiate between the two. So now we have seen different aspects of it. Some dementia, some which look like dementia, and some which are not dementia, and how to differentiate the same. How we have to differentiate the mild cognitive impairment from Alzheimer's disease, from frontotemporal dementia, and primary progressive aphasia. The 4 dementias. Then you have a transient global amnesia, which is not a harmful thing. And then you have a Wernicke's aphasia and a vascular dementia. After that you find is a person with a normal hydrocephalus and depression. All these are different aspects. And then you have to know how to deal with them because some are treatable, some are not treatable. Please go to the next slide, please. So here afterwards, I don't know if you want, we'll go proceed further. Otherwise, we can start with maybe 1 or 2. So you have to classify dementias and whether it's primary or secondary. That will be mainly based on the pathophysiology. Secondary dementias are one which can occur because of conditions secondary like hypothyroidism, vitamin B12 deficiency. We'll go into it later. Then you can have dementia which affects mainly the cortex and then subcortical structures. Like cortical dementia will be Alzheimer's, subcortical will be Parkinson's. Reversible versus irreversible. Reversible will be, like I said, normal pressure hydrocephalus. Irreversible will be Alzheimer's. Early onset versus late onset dementia. Alzheimer's also occasionally can occur early onset, but depression will be one of the differential diagnoses for that. Go into the next one. It's very easy to remember reversible dementia if you remember the mnemonic dementia. D is for drugs. Drugs can produce dementia because the psychoactive drugs can affect your memory. E is for endocrine disorders, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, metabolics, hyponatremia. E, emotional depression. N, nutritional B12 deficiency. T is toxin, tumor, trauma. You can have something which can be reversed. Post-traumatic amnesia can go on. I is for infection and A is for alcohol. Very easy to remember this mnemonic dementia. Coming to the irreversible one, which is the predominant one, you have the Alzheimer's disease. Lewy body dementia is one type of Parkinson dementia. And then you have the frontotemporal dementias. Huntington's, Parkinson are all extrapyramidal. Lewy body dementias are all extrapyramidal. Then you have CJD, the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, that is associated with the characteristic myoclonic jerks. I didn't go into that because we're not seeing much of it here in our part of the world. Next slide, please. So as I said, primary dementia was Alzheimer's, frontotemporal and all. Coming to secondary dementia, you have a B12 deficiency, thiamine, nicotinic acid, hypothyroidism, hyper-Cushing's, hypoparathyroidism, chronic infections like HIV, syphilis can be there. Next slide, please. And then you have toxin dialysis dementia because of aluminium, and then you have drugs. Drug poisoning can produce dementia, heavy metal poisoning. Then STH, bilateral STH sometimes can present like a dementia. Dementia pugilistica, this is because of repeated head injuries. Famous boxer was there, Muhammad Ali, who was pugilistic dementia. Then you have post-encephalitic dementia, post-anoxia, normal pressure hydrocephalus. Coming to neoplasms, brain tumors, metastasis can produce paraneoplastic. Now we have autoimmune encephalitis also, which can produce certain types of dementias. Next slide, please. So this is different MRIs. The first one is of the Alzheimer's disease, where the arrow is pointing at the temporal lobe, the hippocampal atrophy. The next one is the cementing dementia with both the temporal lobes being involved. And then the third one, C, is the frontotemporal. You can see lots of spaces on the upper part of the thing. D is limbic encephalitis. Limbic is the part of the medial temporal. You can see the white blotch-like strings where it's a limbic encephalitis. Even a herpes simplex can have that picture. And then the down, the E is a large, big round object. White. This is a meningioma. Then next one, F is got multiple small black holes. These are all lacunar infarcts. Okay, lacunar infarcts are small infarcts which can take place. And next to that is those white substances which are conglomerate and both the temporal lobes. That is known as CADASIL. It is one type of stroke which occurs in a young person. And the last one is a new variant CJD. As I said, CJD, the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. You have this arrow which is pointing to you at a structure which looks like a hockey stick. So it's known as a hockey stick sign. Next slide, please. Having said all this, why is it okay? So what tests will you do? Apart from an MRI or a CTA, depending on it, you also have to do blood studies to rule out infections, toxin, and the rest of it, which I've already said. SPECT and PET scanning can be helpful in certain situations. EAG very helpful when you have metabolic disorders as well as infections where like herpes simplex and CJD can have a characteristic pattern. Lumbar puncture for infections and genotyping depending on what cause you're thinking of. So next slide, please. Having said all this, how do you treat the disease which causes the dementia? And that will be the main thing. So what will be the main management? Next slide. Reduce the cognitive symptoms. Try to make the environment as simple as possible. Keep things which are needed, take away unnecessary things from the environment. Reduce the behavior symptoms by drugs or by behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. Slow down the disease progression. You may have some drugs and delay the onset of the disease. So with all that, we'll go to the Alzheimer's. Next slide, please. Here, because the lack of cholinesterase, the acetylcholine, what happens is the cholinesterase enzyme will have to be inhibited so that there's more of acetylcholine, and that is increased in the synaptic transmission. That helps to improve memory and cognition. Next slide, please. So the acetylcholine inhibitors which are available here in India is donepezil, rivastigmine. And the NMDA receptor antagonist which is available is memantine. We are using these drugs that are giving quite a good result for our patients. Next slide, please. When it is mild to moderate disease, FDA has accepted donepezil, rivastigmine. Galantamine no longer we are using. They slow the decline. It doesn't stop. It slows the decline. It may take a little longer and may help in some functional measures. Next slide, please. When it comes to moderate or severe, memantine is helpful because it leads to the intracellular accumulation of calcium and helps prevent further nerve damage. Sometimes they use a combination of memantine with donepezil and then they can be helpful in patients. So next slide. So can we reduce it? We have said all this. We have said the different types of dementia, reversible, non-reversible, cortical, subcortical, treatable, non-treatable, and depending on primary or secondary. So which dementia can be reduced? You have to find out the cause. Suppose there's nothing else and you have families to have Alzheimer's, you have to be very careful. You have to protect your brain. For that, you have to look after your heart, your BP. Second thing, you have to be physically and mentally active. Follow a good diet. Do not eat junk food. And then challenge your brain. Learn something new every day. It can be anything. It can help somebody. So do some enjoyable activities which will help you to keep you connected socially. Okay? And all this will go in a long term in making your social life active, which will help you to prevent dementia. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any questions? How do I go to the chat thing? I don't know this. No chats? Everybody is very clear? Are you all listening? I think you can unmute them. You can take away the screen sharing. Okay. So, okay, I'm getting one nice presentation. Thank you. Then, anything else? Was it too long, too short? Do you want more information, less information? Because I don't know how much you want, how much you know. So unless you tell, elaborate on frontotemporal dementia. So okay, I'll do that then. Any other questions? That's it? Do I take it you've all understood or not understood? Nandakumar,
Understood.
you unmute, please unmute everybody. I'm not able to hear anybody asking any question. They can ask me rather than write in the chat box. Can you unmute all of them?
Ah.
Yes, Aman, thank you. Survival rate in dementia. Okay, okay. Two things I have to do: FTD, survival rate. Any other questions? Survival rate is even after Alzheimer's, they may survive 10 to 20 years. That is variable because progression is variable. Frontotemporal dementia is mainly a dementia where the parts of the frontal lobe and the temporal lobes are affected. So they have a change in their behavior pattern, their personality, and they have problems in executing tasks like buttoning a shirt. They don't know how to open a door. They don't know how to close a door. And they go to a place, they don't know how to open the lid of a bottle. All these are very common apart from memory changes. Memory, usually the immediate memory is affected and later on only the long-term memory goes. Okay, this is a very simple way of putting it as frontotemporal. You have primary progressive aphasia, which is also much more of temporal involvement than of frontal involvement. Anything else?
Ma'am, hello.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a doubt. Ma'am,
Who
they.
you are?
It,
Can you introduce yourself? Can you tell me your name?
my name's Hiba, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, it's a common perception that playing mind games like Sudoku or solving a puzzle might delay the onset of dementia or
Definitely, you
Alzheimer's.
have to keep your brain active, like I said, for prevention. And definitely, mind games are very, very helpful. You should have physical and mental activity. Okay, where it's something which stimulates your brain. Physical activity is also helpful in preventing the onset of dementia. Mental activity definitely is helpful. Challenging work, learning new things, new languages, learning new ways of doing things, learning some new, whatever it is new. You can learn something on astrology if you want. I'm just telling something different from what you do normally. There you have to stress yourself to think and act. That will also help in reducing the progression of dementia and also delay the onset of dementia. And Sudoku is a good game. Sudoku puzzles and all.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome. Have you all seen Nadula Sila Pakata Kano movie?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened there?
The protagonist will be hit by a cricket ball on the head and he'll forget what
he
happened.
had short-term memory loss.
Yes, ma'am.
Which was a retrograde amnesia.
Yes, ma'am. But he'll regain it back at the end.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that is not a dementia. Okay, that was post-traumatic amnesia.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
And any other movie, Hindi movie, where dementia is portrayed by Amitabh Bachchan?
Ma'am, I'm not familiar with Hindi movies, ma'am. I'm not sure if
Black.
others are. Okay, ma'am.
Black. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any questions or can I log off? Shall I log off? Hello? Do I log off? Tilesh, Nandakumar, I'm logging off.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
You have to log me out or can I log off? I will leave. Okay. Please send me your feedback on the WhatsApp. Okay? You can share the number. Send me the feedback on WhatsApp. Thanks, Tilesh, Nandakumar, for coordinating the slides.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.